Okay, today is September 30th, a Tuesday, 2014, the last day of Tuesday, excuse me, the last day of September, and I wanted to see if the notice that I got here from Dacco when I bought my transmission, they're claiming that whenever I install all foreign lockup type converters that the bolts provided by the manufacturer are going to be too long. I find this hard to believe, considering the fact that these are actually, in spite of the fact that these are actually torque to yield bolts, and from what I understand from the dealer, you're actually supposed to replace both the torque converter bolts and the flex plate bolts because both are torque to yield, and these are actually in order to change the remain seal. So in order to have for everyone to see this, I've enlarged this, and these are the actual, excuse me, the spot that my light on my phone's on. These are the actual specs, and basically what's going on is on the left is the torque converter, and on the right is the flex plate or the flywheel. And for the torque converter, you actually use 6 bolts, and then for the flex plate, you actually use 10 bolts. These are the old style right here. They already come with the Loctite equivalent on there, so you don't need Loctite or Permatex or anything else. These are actually a T50, like Torx 50, and these over here are actually a 12.17 millimeter socket, and these already have what somebody on Matthew's Volvo's site referred to as green jizz, which is actually it's yellow stuff. I'm assuming it's the equivalent of Loctite as well. So anyway, and the way I measured these bolts was I used a caliper gauge, and because these bolts are some of the bolts are different on the flex plate, I couldn't get an accurate measurement on all of them. So what I did was actually I used the end of this and measured down like this, and what I did was actually I put the gauge on the end right here, and actually I measured down like this on each bolt to see where they stop. And I did this for all the bolts, and as you can see, this over here is actually the one on the left is the old bolt for the flex plate. The one on the right is a new bolt. These two bolts right here are almost different. They look substantially shorter than the new ones. Look shorter than the other ones because they haven't been stretched yet. But besides that, one has a kind of a conical head shape, and the new ones have a flat head shape. And when you stand these two up, you can obviously see that these two bolts, because of the way they stand, well, it's not really a fair comparison, but the way they stand, they appear to be taller. But when he raises one up just a little bit, it seems to be about the same. It's still a little shorter, and that's why over here I measured it and I figured out. Well, the old bolts were actually in the range of 21 millimeters, just to round off figures. The newer ones are actually a few thousandths of a degrees shorter than the older ones. The same thing happened over with the torque converter. On the torque converter, the old bolts were measuring 12 millimeters and change, and the new ones were staying in the range of 11 3/4 or 11.75, 11.65, stuff like that, millimeters. So what this tells me is that I'm not too sure if this is actually accurate or not. The information that I'm not even too sure if engineers actually wrote this. This is called bullcorn or what the heck it is, but by the time you put the bolts in there, and keep in mind that the new bolts for the torque converter are actually 11.75. Okay, I want you to see that. So by the time I went and put the measurement, which I'll have to do kind of quickly here, this is on a 0 gauge, okay? So I use this once again, and actually I'll measure the hole, okay? I'm actually coming up with 13.58. Anyway, I'll upload this later on, and they're all the same. Okay, bye.